along with Hector Garcia giving us some great QuickBooks Online tips. And we're so thankful for Divi for sponsoring this wonderful webinar for us. But before we do get started with QuickBooks Online reporting tips, class, locations, and tags, I do want to go through a few quick technical checks. I want to do a little housekeeping and make sure that you can see Hector's first slide, that you can hear me, so your sound visuals are okay. And while you're at it, letting me know that you can see and hear, why don't you go ahead and let us know where you're calling in from today. And you can do that over in the Q&A section of the control panel. I see lots of different people coming in now. Sometimes there's a slight delay with the webcast, so don't worry about that. But I love to get all of your input. Do keep in mind that there's only one of me here, so I will take care of your technical issues just as quickly as possible. Wonderful. I see people coming in from California and Utah. Everything's good from North Carolina, and audio and visual good in Boulder, Colorado, and New Jersey. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Of course, remember, if you're having troubles, I am here for you. Now, concerning CPE, if you're here for credit, this session qualifies for 1 credit of CPE. And in order to earn that, please remain logged in for at least 50. That's 50 minutes, and answer all our polling questions. We do have multiple questions today, and you actually only need to answer 3 of the 4 to get credit, but please go ahead and answer all of them. If you are having any problems with answering the polls, we found that getting out of full screen mode helps with answering the polls. The GoToWebinar poll box will pop up when it's time for a poll. The slides go away, and all you have to do is select your answer and be sure to hit submit. We then here at CPA Academy will process your credit by the end of today, and we'll make that available within about 24 hours in your CPA Academy account, along with an archive recording of the session and the handouts. Now, you can also find the handouts. I noticed that Hector was kind enough to put them in the chat. I have also dropped them into the handout section of the GoToWebinar control panel. So I think that is plenty of housekeeping. Let's give a warm welcome to Hector Garcia. Welcome, Hector.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Everybody, thank you very much for showing up, the people that are watching this live, and the people that will consequently watch the recording. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. QuickBooks Online, specifically reporting tips with classes, locations, and tags. There are tons of areas in QuickBooks that we could deep dive in for reporting purposes, but for this specific session, we're going to be focusing on classes, locations, tags, comparing them, kind of drawing conclusions in which is the best choice depending on the current circumstance, and then how to actually run the customized reports based on any of these dimensions. My name is Hector Garcia. I have an accounting firm and a QuickBooks training consulting firm based out of Miami, Florida. There's my Twitter handle on the screen. There's my YouTube channel and my email. So if you need to contact me for whatever reason, if something wasn't clear or was missed during this webinar, go ahead and contact me and I'll try to send you to the right resource. So today we're going to cover comparing the 3 classifications and tags. We're going to just kind of quickly give you a couple of tips on how you can quickly identify which is going to be the best choice depending on the circumstance. Then we're going to deep dive and do a couple of examples in classes, couple of examples in locations, and we're going to talk about tags. We'll do a couple of examples of tags. Then I'm going to give you a slide with some additional resources, additional webinar recordings, additional videos you can watch to complement your QuickBooks Online skills. We are not going to cover reporting basics for QuickBooks Online. So it is assumed that when you're watching this webinar, you do understand the reporting basics of QuickBooks Online. I will add in the additional resources slide a link so you can go back and watch basic reporting customization because we're not going to cover reporting basics. So this is sort of a level 2, intermediate, maybe more advanced type of webinar if you're just getting started with QuickBooks Online reports. We're not going to get too deep into custom reporting for customers, projects, or vendors. We're going to skip all that. I do acknowledge that those are things that are worth learning and understanding as well, but we're going to skip that so we can focus on classes, locations, and tags. And we're not going to cover custom fields in QuickBooks Online Advanced at all. That's a treasure trove of information when it comes to understanding how to build custom reports with custom fields. We are making the choice not to cover that so we can focus on class, locations, and tags. But I do suggest that if there is a webinar in the future in CPA Academy on custom fields for QuickBooks Online, which I'm not aware of at the moment that we're recording this, but if there is one, you definitely want to attend that because custom fields are incredible, but they are a world of their own. So let's start by comparing classes, locations, and tags. So classes are going to be available only in QuickBooks Online Plus or QuickBooks Online Advanced. If you're working on QuickBooks Online Plus, you're going to be limited to 40 classes in total, assuming you have no locations. If you have classes and locations, and you're working with QuickBooks Online Plus, there's going to be a limit of 40 active classes and locations combined. If you upgrade to QuickBooks Online Advanced, there's no limit to classes or locations. Now, the really interesting thing about classes, and I think that makes classes probably the best choice for most custom reporting needs, is that it can be selected as a transaction level entry. That means it is a field that encompasses the entire transaction, or it can be toggled to a line item or a row based entry. That means that every single line item in a transaction could essentially have a different class. This is the only one of the three classes, locations, and tags that has this particular property. The other ones are all entire transaction only. Now, classes are going to be available in all transactions with the exception of payroll line items. You can actually run a paycheck can actually have a class, but no specific line items inside the paycheck could have different classes. So one paycheck would have an entire class associated with it. You cannot use classes in receive payments. You can not use classes in bill payments, specifically because those two are tied or linked to other transactions that would otherwise have a class. So whatever the class of the invoice that the payment is attached to, that, for lack of a better term, that receive payment will have the property of the attached transaction or the linked transaction. Bill payments, same thing. So if you got a bill and a bill payment, the bill itself has a class. The bill payment will not have a class. But once you apply or attach that bill payment to the bill, that bill payment will basically encompass the class of that bill. So that's why the individual payment transactions are not going to have a class in itself, because it'll create too much confusion. Now, transfers and pay down credit card, which is essentially a transfer, those don't have classes either because these are balance sheet transactions essentially. And classes are not recommended for a balance sheet type of transaction. Classes are really good for profit and loss type of transactions. We're going to go deep dive into that particularity. As I mentioned earlier, locations in combination with classes, and this requires a little change here. Apologize for that. The word here would be classes. Okay, and I posted the presentation in a Google Drive document. So any changes I make on the fly during the presentation, and I tend to do that. Sometimes I'll catch a mistake or something like that and change it in the middle of the presentation. So locations combined with classes is a max of 40 with QBO Plus. And if you go with QBO Advanced, it would be unlimited. As I mentioned earlier, locations are transaction level only. There's no way to make locations a line item level type of transaction. And just like classes, they're available in all transactions except for receive payments, bill payments, pay down credit card, and transfers. Specifically, when it comes to payroll, locations are not available in payroll, only classes. And so either way, you can't do line item on locations anyway. And then we have tags. So tags are available in all versions of QuickBooks Online. Doesn't matter if you have the least expensive version and the most expensive version, tags will be available. They work the exact same way. There's a limit of 300 total tags and tag groups you can use. So that's plenty. For most people, you shouldn't need any more than 300 anyway. So from a feature availability perspective, compared to locations and classes, tags seems to be the winner. The problem is tags is very limited on reports, okay? Tags can only be done transaction level, very similar to the way locations work. In many ways, I would say tags and locations are very similar, and tags can be used anywhere except for payroll, receive payments, bill payment, pay down credit card, and transfer. So that's a sort of a common theme across these because they're balance sheet only transactions. And typically, most of these things are for the purpose of a profit and loss type of report. Now, one thing that's really important is it is possible to run a balance sheet by class, but 9 times out of 10, your balance sheet is going to show an unbalanced class, which means that if you don't have the exact same of total debits assigned to that class as the exact same type of credits or number of credits and amount of credits, you're essentially going to have assets and liabilities plus equity not equal at some point in time. So a balance sheet by class is never, ever, or I would say 99% of times, is not a reliable type of report. Okay, so never use classes for the purposes of running a balance sheet by class. Now, a balance sheet by location will always be balanced because, in essence, because one transaction can have an entire location in itself, the balance sheet by location will always be balanced. However, one exception is any transactions that don't have a location associated with them, you're not going to see them reflected on the balance sheet by class. So that's going to have ultimately a column that says unassigned, right, where there's no locations associated with that transaction. It will be balanced, but a balance sheet by location could also have an unassigned column, just like a class. And there's no such thing as a balance sheet by tag or tag group. So you can't even attempt to get a balance sheet type of report with a tag or a tag group. Now, if you ever want to know what are the default reports for a class or a location, just go into the report screen, search for the word class or the word location, and it will show you all the default reports available. So in a class or a location scenario, P&L by class or location, purchases by class or location detail, sales by class or location detail, and sales by class and location summary are the default reports that contain a class or a location. However, just because they're not the report that you want is not on a default report, doesn't specifically mean that you cannot get the report using the class or the location as a filter or a column or a group, and we'll discuss that a little bit later on. Same thing with tags. If you want to know all the reports that are available for tags, all you do is go into the reports section, type the word tag in the search box, and you will see the list of the reports. Today we're recording this webinar. There's only 2 reports, P&L by tag and transaction list by tag, but of course that may always change, and hopefully Intuit will expand on the available type of reports there for classes. That would be nice, but for now those are the only 2 that are available, and those would be your starting point. So quick summary. It's on slide. I'm not going to go over it. I'll let you check it out. This is basically a summary of everything we talked about, kind of deciding the pros and cons of each, just a summary of what we discussed. Now, let's do a couple of examples of what does entire transaction mean versus per row mean. So if you look at the location and the tags on this specific screenshot, those are for the entire transaction. Notice that they're in the top of the transaction, they're in the header of the transaction, in the summary of the transaction. It's the different terms that are used intertwined with these concepts. And then if classes are toggled to be a row-based or item-based, you will see the tag drop-down next to each of the items or each of the accounts in the split section, in the detail section of each transaction. Now, as I mentioned earlier, classes can be toggled to be for the entire transaction. But in my opinion, if you're going to have locations already to be used for the entire transaction, I would use classes for the row or the line item level. In my opinion, I think that's the best place to put it. And tags are only for the entire transaction. Okay, so perfect point to do the first polling question. So I'm going to go ahead and run the first polling question. I'll click on launch.
And while you were reading my mind, Hector, I was just thinking it was about time for a poll.
Perfect. And while the polling question's up and you guys answer that polling question, quick reminder that you need to answer all the polling questions in order to get your CP certificate. There's no right or wrong answers. We just need an answer. So we can put you for that you participated the entire hour. Now, I'd like to talk about Divi real quick. I'd like to thank Divi again for sponsoring this webinar. Divi is sort of a expense reporting and credit card company, bank, financial institution mixed into one. And the great thing about Divvy is you can create virtual credit cards for every single team member in your organization. And you can also create a budget and limit what that team member can spend. Then your team members will make all their regular expenditures, whether it's travel or supplies or Amazon or whatever it is that they're buying. They buy it through their Divvy card. Divvy will replace your standard American Express, Visa, MasterCard, credit card that you're using. Everything will be paid with a Divvy card, and it will show up in a, let's say, in an expense report, online, digital, all completely synchronized with QuickBooks, available for your accounting team and a bookkeeping team to really quickly run your expense reporting process. And what's really, really cool about it is that it's all digital, it's all online, it's fintech, right? It's all integrated with QuickBooks Online, and most importantly, you can limit or budget what each person can spend. So when you do that, that's just going to be a lot better, a lot less chasing around for receipts and stuff like that if you're giving each of the team members a budget of what they can spend. So in today's world where people are working remote and they're a little bit more autonomous, I think it's important to have tools to give people the ability to sort of make their own decisions and kind of move the business forward without so much bureaucracy, expense reports, and the traditional way of giving employees the ability to spend money. So I hope that was a good quick Reader's Digest version elevator pitch for Divvy. And I'll go ahead and close the polling question. Thank you for that. And I'm going to go ahead and move on. So let's move on to classes. And I'll do a couple of slides and then we'll dive right into the product because I know you're anxious to see all this stuff in examples. When you go into the account and settings screen, in the advanced tab, you go down to where it says categories, and then where it says track classes, you will have a drop-down menu where you can pick if it's going to be for the entire transaction or if it's going to be for a line item or row. So that's the place where you go to change that. Right under that, you can also change the label. There's different names you can use for location. So you can call it store, you can call it department. So there's different terminology you can use. There's about 7 different options there. And I'll go in the product and kind of show you. And that could also be one way to sort of customize the experience for the end user. Now, another really interesting thing when it comes to customizing reports by class or locations, you want to think hard when you're picking which dimension to use, or when you are instructing the person that does the data entry on what circumstances we use a class or a location. You want to think a couple steps ahead and think, where will I use that in a report? Will I be using that as a column to break up my profit and loss by class or locations, for example? Or will I be using it as a filter to only see information from a class or a location? Something to think about. For tags, it's not going to be as simple because tag has really limited reporting, but class and locations are the best 2 tools for reporting. Okay, so and I'm gonna go back for a second. This is for a summary report. In a summary report, like a profit and loss summary standard, that would be 2 places you can use it, as a column or as a filter. Now, if you're running a detail report or a transaction report, you can also use it as a filter, but then you no longer use it as a column per se. You use it as a row, and that's in the area that says group by. And when you group by, basically you group all the rows together by that class or location. Tax is going to have a similar scenario, but classes and locations are available in almost every report as a filter, which is the most important thing. And now my favorite report, which a lot of people don't know about, is called the custom summary report. And the reason why some people don't know about it is because for some versions of QuickBooks Online, don't ask me why or how this happened, the report is not available through the regular pathway. So you literally have to copy and paste the URL on this slide into your QuickBooks Online to be able to get to the custom summary report if you don't see it on the regular report screen. So let's go to that. I'm going to go ahead and open QuickBooks Online. Let me log in. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to go into reports and I'm going to click on the reports button. And then whoops, is asking me to log in again. Sorry, let me log in one more time. Okay, so it had me time out. I assume uh, I was logged in for like an hour or something, and it timed me out. So let me open my sample file here.
It's just keeping all your data secure that way. We're glad it doesn't stay on forever, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Not for webinar presentation purposes, but for everything else is a good thing. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. Let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better. So I'm going to click on the reports tab on the left-hand side and then click on reports. And then usually here in the search box, I can type something like location and I'll be able to see all my reports by location. I can type class. I can see all my reports by class. I can type tag and I can see all my reports by tag. So there's one specific report which I love and I think most people are not aware of, which we're going to focus on for some of the filters here, is the custom summary report. As I mentioned earlier, if you're searching for custom summary report in your QuickBooks and you don't see it, what you want to do is you want to kind of copy and paste the URL from the slides we provided. So copy and paste that into the URL screen and then press enter, and that will take you to the report. Again, I don't know why this report is available for some and not for others. That's just a really sort of weird scenario. But anyway, once you open the custom summary report, you're going to see something that's not available in any other report in the QuickBooks Online world, which is the ability to choose both the rows and the columns. So class and locations are a great scenario for this sort of circumstance. So let's just start slow here. I want to do a report of sales by location, right? So the way I would do this is I would break down who do I want the sales by? Do I want it by customers? Do I want it by classes? Let's assume that I want it by customers, and that would be my rows. And then I want each column to be the locations, and I will select locations up here. And then let's say I want the whole year, and then I'll click on run report. So what you're going to see is you're going to see a flat report that shows all the customers as the rows, customers and jobs. Let me collapse the jobs. You see all the customers as rows. You see the Miami office, which is one of my locations. You see the West Palm Beach office, which is the other location. And then you see not specified, that's every transaction that missed a location in this particular case. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this. And what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and click on the ones that say not specified. Click on that. And then this will give me a detailed report of all the transactions that currently don't have a location associated with them. I'm going to go ahead and click on any of the transactions. So I look at the report and notice that my location dropdown doesn't have information in it. So I'm going to look at the transaction, make sure I pick the right item, whatever the right product is or whatever it is. And then I'm going to go to select a location associated with that sale. And location doesn't always have to mean location, right? So it doesn't literally have to mean location. It could mean department, cost center, subsection of your business, a particular area that you're tracking different than another area. Maybe the place where you are conducting the business, maybe the place where you are shipping from. There's all sorts of ways you can interpret that, and you would pick locations based on your needs. Let me click on this other transaction that's missing a location. I'm going to click on the drop-down menu and say this is from the West Palm Beach office, and then click on Save and Close. So I no longer have, for that particular customer that we saw there, AAA Industries, I no longer have a not specified line there. So the other thing is when I run a custom summary report, by default, I'm going to click on Customize. By default, the account that's being selected here, it's all income and expenses, which means this is a P&L type report, right? Anything that's income or expenses associated with that specific customer, it would summarize in this report. If I only want to see sales, I'm going to have to click on this checkbox where it says distribution account, and I have to override that and change that to all income accounts, right? So because again, I'm only trying to see sales associated with that customer. Then I click on run report, and then we have different set of information. So before it was reporting both income and costs, now it's reporting solely income. So that's pretty cool. That's a quick report of sales by customer and by location, which I find super useful. Now let's break it down a little bit more. Let's say instead of doing by location, let's do it by class. So I'm simply going to change the class up here. and then click on Run Report. And then I'm tracking something completely different on the classes. I'm tracking, whatever it is that I want to track. I have it broken down into fresh products, labor, overhead, parts, shipping, and then basically everything that says not specified. Those are the transactions that are missing classes. So let's just go with the 44,000 there for AAA Industries not specified. That will give me a detailed report of every transaction that's missing a class. I'll click on that. And then right there where it says class, I'll click on the drop down. I'll change that to fresh products, whatever the right class is appropriate for that particular transaction. Click on save, and let's just do save here. And then I'll close that. And then I'll click on the other one for 44,000, and we'll put the right class. Let's say this is labor, and then we'll do save and X out of that, and then go back to the report and notice that no longer under AAA Industries, I have a missing class. So basically, the trick in a nutshell is if you're going to use classes or locations and you want to have accurate reporting, you must absolutely be aware that every time you're missing a class or location, your report's going to look all jacked up like this, and you're going to lose your appreciation for it. You're going to lose your trust in it. So you do have to make that extra effort to make sure all your transactions have their classes or locations associated with them. Okay. So the other thing I like to show here is the cross section between classes and locations. This is the only report in the entire QuickBooks Online world where you can cross classes and locations in one report, this custom summary report. So for example, I'm going to do the rows by locations and columns by class. Actually, let's flip it. Let's do rows by classes and columns by locations. And then click on Run Report. And notice that this is a cross section between all the sales on classes and all the sales by location. So pretty cool. When you click on the drop down here, you see all the different things that you can track. I can also break this down. We did by customer. I can break this down by products and services and click on Run Report, and essentially have every product that I sold and the location associated with it. Let's see if classes work. And click on Run Report, and there you go, that works as well. So I got all the products that I'm selling under this business, and every cross section between the product and the class, or the product and the location. Now, a couple of things that are important to mention is the usage of subclasses or sub-locations. So for example, let me go into the gear menu, and then I'm going to click on, then I'm going to go on to locations, and let's assume that these two are going to be under a sub-location called Florida, and then I'm going to create more locations, let's say in a different state. So I'm going to go to new here, and I'm going to create a new location called Florida. I'm just going to type FL there. I'm going to ignore all these other checkboxes because we're not going to go into what else you can do with locations besides reports. We're focused on reports only.
The webinar will begin shortly.
Additional functionality
Please remain
that has
on
to
the
do with
line.
emailing and invoicing and that sort of thing. So I'm creating a location called Florida. Click on Save. And then I'm going to edit each of my current locations. I'm going to click on Edit and make them a sub-location of Florida. So I'm going to make these two a sub-location of Florida. We'll start with the Miami office. And then let's go to the West Palm Beach office. Click on Edit. I'm also going to make this a little bit easier to read. I'll put WPB office, and I'll do a sub-location of Florida as well. Okay, so sub-location of Florida. And click on Save. And then I'll create another location.
The webinar
called
will begin
California.
shortly.
Just type CA.
Please remain on the line.
And then I'll create another called LA, so Los Angeles office, and make that a sub location of California, an extra A in here, and then click on Save. And then I'll do my San Francisco office. I'll put SF office and make that a sub location of California, and then click on Save. So now I got my locations broken down by sub location, which also will make it pretty interesting for reporting purposes. Okay, perfect spot to do
The webinar will
polling
begin
question
shortly.
number 2.
Please remain on
So
the
polling
line.
question number 2, I'm launching the poll now. Again, you
The
must answer
broadcast
the
is now
polling
starting.
question
All
to get
attendees
your
are in listen-only
CPE
mode.
certificates.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us
There's no
here
right or
at
wrong
CPA
answer,
Academy.
just
This is Maureen Dudley, and I am going to be your
an
moderator
answer
here
to do that.
today. Well, great. And
And
people are
Hector,
already
some
doing
people have been
exactly what
having
I'm
a few
going to be
issues.
asking them
This
to
is a
do. Let
webcast
us know
webinar,
if
so
you
if you
can
are having
see
issues,
the
try
slide,
refreshing your
if
browser.
you can hear my voice, maybe you can see Erin could give us a
Right.
little wave. She's there on the
The
webcam.
good news is this is being recorded,
Wonderful.
right? So we can
Before we
always
get
watch
started, we want
later.
to
I'm
make sure
also
that
recording
everyone
it locally,
so go ahead and
just
let us
in
know where
case
you're coming from, that you
something
can
with the
see, that you
internet
can
is
hear.
going on.
Some
So
people are asking about
worst case
handouts,
scenario,
and we
if the
don't have any
recording
handouts
is
today,
choppy,
but we will
I can
have the
upload my high
presentation there for
resolution
you. And feel free
recording
to
as
put in
well.
all your questions.
Okay, so a quick reminder, we got the second polling question up in the screen. It's been almost a minute. We usually want to get about 90% of the answers before we move on. Please make sure you answer something. There's no right or wrong answer. We just need an answer so we can issue your CPE certificate. Perfect. I think it's time to close that polling question. Thank you very much. Close the polling question. Just want to share the results real quick. There's a lot of QuickBooks Desktop users out there. Still is a lot of QuickBooks Desktop users out there. And one thing I want to mention is locations is not available in QuickBooks Desktop. And I don't have reason to believe that they'll ever will. I've been pushing, personally, I talked to the programmers and the product managers, and I've been telling them that locations will be a wonderful feature to have in the QuickBooks Desktop world. But it sounds like most of the big time development is going to the online version. So neither tags or locations are available in desktop. Classes are the only thing available in desktop. All right, let me go ahead and close that. All right, so we have our new location and sub-location set up. Let me show you kind of what that would look like. If I were to create a new invoice, right, and I were to select whatever the customer is, right, and I select the products or the items that I'm selling, and we'll put here, let's say 500. I can choose in the drop-down menu which location I want to assign this to. So let's say this is being sold from our LA office, right? So I have my location, California, and then my sub-location, Los Angeles. And one thing that I wanted to mention, and this is going to take a lot of discipline, at any point in time that you create a sub-location or a subclass, I strongly recommend that you never put anything to the parent location or the parent class, because it'll all make your reports really, really messy. So I'll go ahead and save that, and then I'll click on, let's do a save, and then I'll create a new invoice just so we can kind of see what this looks like. I'll create an entirely different invoice for a different project, and I'll do this from our San Francisco office. I'll pick, let's say, one of my, say what, and a random item here, and let's make this $5,000. And I'm leaving class out for now. And then I'll click on save and close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a profit and loss by location for the current month, so you can see what that would look like. So I'm going to go to reports, click on to reports, and then I'll type up here location, and then I'll do a profit and loss by location. This is a summary report. And then I will do, you click on the drop down here and do this month only, and then click on run report. So what you want to see here is what's going on in our parent location, which is California. And then we have our LA, we have San Francisco, and then we have our total California. Then we have Florida, Miami office, and total Florida. One caveat to this, it's one of my biggest pet peeves, is whenever you have sublocations or subclasses, you have no way to tell QuickBooks not to show either the parent category as a column, or to show or to not show the total or the subtotal. So bottom line, if you go with a sublocation type of setup or a subclass type setup, just prepare that you're going to see some potentially redundant information. So if you wanted to edit that, you would have to export it into Excel. And I'm going to open up Excel real quick, and I won't spend too much time in Excel. I just want to show you some of the practical issues that we have with using sublocations, for example. So I'll bring this over to the screen. Let's make the font a little bit bigger, right? So in the example of having this, I would probably want to hide the parent category, assuming it's just zeros across the board. I would probably want to hide the total, and I would probably want to hide the other parent, so hide that as well, and then hide the other total. And the reason for that is so it doesn't look strange that the numbers are not adding up per se. So in the event that you are using subcategories, and you group them like that for a specific purpose, you might need to go into Excel to be able to clean them up. Or the other way, I'm going to unhide some of these. The other thing you might want to do is hide everything but the total. So I'll click on hide, and then I'll hide everything but the total here, and then I get the total subcategory total without looking at the specific sublocations in this case. So it's a quick Excel solution. Unfortunately, there's no built-in tool inside QuickBooks where I can say, hey, go ahead and hide the totals or only show the totals. That would be really nice, just not available at the moment. Okay. All right. So that will work with, I want to do the example with classes. It works with classes the exact same way. If you're working with QuickBooks Desktop, for example, it works the same way with classes, but there's no locations in Desktop. Let's talk about some detailed reports. So I'm going to go back into reports here, and then I'm going to type location again, and then I'm going to do a detailed report. So we got sales by location detail. I'll click on that. And the way it works is now the locations are being grouped. Let's do a couple of months to get a bunch of data. So as you notice here, we have all of our sales from California, right? They're broken down by LA and San Francisco. I can actually click on the little triangle. I'm not sure what the specific term for that is. To the left of California, click on that. That will collapse all my California sales. And notice that on the amount, I get to see the dollar amount. If I can collapse Florida, okay, I can click on that. I think it's taking a while to think. I can see the total for Florida. I notice that there's one transaction that doesn't have a class at all, or a location at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and open it and add a location just so we can have something in here, and then click on save and close, right? And then now it's all grouped together into one of the two. So again, I can collapse California if I want to, collapse Florida, and just get a high level of sales by California or Florida. I can open one of them up and then just have my high level California and then have my Florida sublocations being shown here, or I can even break them down and just show a summary by a subcategory like that. So this will give me that sort of a summarized type of report. For this, I would probably choose a custom summary report at this point because it's probably the one that makes the most sense. Now I'll show you what that looks like. Let's go here to custom summary report, and we're gonna use locations as our, oh, that's not it. Whoops, let's go back. Let's type custom summary report. I used the wrong one. And then we're gonna do for the rows, we're gonna select locations. For the columns, I'm just gonna do by quarter and then click on run report. And then notice how they're broken down, right? You see California as my main location and then the sub locations. I particularly find this concept of locations and sublocations, classes and subclasses particularly fascinating because I think this is where the most value is on custom reporting, is being able to both be able to see a high level and then drill down to a detail. So I love just the capacity to do that. I find that if you are going to build a custom report for yourself or for someone, this is probably the areas where there's the biggest opportunity. How can I group my locations or my classes in a logical way so they make the most sense for us? Now, one thing I want to mention, I want to go back into the gear menu and click on account and settings, is once you go to advanced, and we have this on the slides, and you go down to categories, notice that right now, classes are set up for one entire transaction. That's where they don't show up in a line level of every transaction. I'm going to go ahead and click on to each row. So I'm actually switching it in the middle of my live file, which will require me to log out and log back in. We'll discuss that in a second. But I'm going to go ahead and switch it to each row per transaction. And I'm also going to change the location label. Notice that I have different options. I got business, department, division, property, store, territory. So I'll give you an example where locations could be useful. Let's say you have one owner that owns multiple LLCs, and each of these LLCs need their own profit and loss, their own balance sheet, but you don't need to separate their finances for whatever reason. There's tons of legal reasons why you want to each LLC or each corporation to have their own finances. But for this particular case, let's say that I got one owner that owns, let's say, multiple real estate properties, and each of them are owned under an LLC. Location would be a great thing to do because you're able to run a balance sheet or a profit and loss by location. So I'm going to go ahead and click on save. So we change the territory, and then I click on done. And I just want to show you what the impact is of changing that label. And then I'm going to go create an invoice here and show you that now, instead of saying location, this is going to say territory. So you notice that says territory. So the other thing I wanted to discuss is why you would want the class as a row instead of a high level transaction item. And I would say, generally speaking, there's no one specific reason to do it. The reason why I would prefer to use classes as a line level instead of top level or the way locations are, it's because that's the difference between them. That's the differentiation between locations and classes for the most part is that. So to use classes as a top level instead of a row level, I think is a wasted opportunity, especially because tags, which we're going to talk about tags in a second, tags are also a top level type of function. So this is what I would recommend, that I'm just going to do an invoice here at random, that if I'm selling two specific items, so let's say I'm selling bananas and I'm also selling carrots, that I can assign them to different classes. So let me just do 100 here and 100 here. And then see, these are all under fresh products class. But let's say I'm also charging for shipping, and then I have a class for shipping. And then where could this be useful? Where maybe we're doing a commission level type of report, and we only pay commission on specific classes, but maybe not pay commission on shipping. That's another really good example of where classes could be useful. I mean, you could technically use the item itself to segregate and filter, but it's just one of the things that you can do for that. So let me go ahead and click on save and close. And then I'm just going to run a quick report here. And I'll just let's do a profit and loss. And let's just do today's date, just so we can see today's transactions. And we'll break these down by classes. And click on report. So you notice that I have my shipping class being used. Actually, did I put any value on that shipping? I probably didn't. Let me go back to that. Of course, that was a mistake. Let's put $17 in shipping, and then click save and close, and then go back into this profit and loss just for today, and then do it by class and click on report. That way we get to see our fresh product sales, and then we see our shipping, and they're all from the same one transaction. So you really get good flavor, good dimension of data when you're able to break it down in that way, right? So you got all my fresh product sales and the cost, and then we got the shipping class separately. And again, if you will be paying commission or bonuses only based on the specific classes, that's a great example of how we can do that. Good time to take a break and do our third polling question. And then there's the third polling question. When the third polling question comes up, I'm going to show you tags real quick. Probably spend about 7 minutes on tags, and then I'll leave it to Divi to do their last presentation on their product.
Hector, just as a reminder, some people are trying to answer in the Q&A section. You must use the quick poll GoToWebinar poll box that pops up. Make sure to select one of the radio buttons and submit your answer. Putting it into the Q&A section won't get you credit.
Correct. And some people are asking if tags is available for everyone right now, and the answer is yes. For some people, they're automatically turned on. For others, they need to go into the gear menu, click on QuickBooks Labs, and then turn it on in there. So if you're not seeing tags in your QuickBooks file, you probably need to turn them on that. Now, someone's asking if classes and locations are available in QuickBooks Online Essentials, the answer is no. You need to be in QuickBooks Online Plus or Advanced to be able to use classes or locations. Okay, somebody's asking if I use locations to separate multiple LLCs, would that create problems with different tax IDs? So the answer is if you're running payroll in QuickBooks, that's going to be a problem. But if you're not running payroll or any sales tax type of work, it doesn't matter. For just running a P&L or a balance sheet by location, it shouldn't be an issue either. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and close the polling question. This is the third polling question. We still have one polling question left, but thank you for answering that. Okay. And the last thing I want to show you is I'm going to run just a regular profit and loss report. And let's say I want to run a profit and loss just for one location. So if I run a P&L and I do columns by, and I click on the drop-down menu under columns by, and I pick on locations. In this case, we changed it to territories. We went back in the setting and changed that. It's going to show me all the territories across the board. But I can actually just ask for a P&L just for a specific location or a specific group of locations. So let's say I only want to see a P&L for my Florida locations or territories. I'm going to click on Customize, click on Filter, and then I can click on Territory, which is Locations. Click on the drop-down menu and say, you know what? I only want to see a P&L for Miami and West Palm Beach. So I basically select those two and then click on Run Report. And notice that this is going to show me a P&L just for that location. So it's going to show me Miami, West Palm Beach, and the total of the two added together. If I only want to see Miami, only Miami by itself, I just click on the Customize button on the top right, click on the drop-down menu for under Locations or Territories in this case, only select the specific location I want, click on Run Report, and then I get just for Miami. Unfortunately, when there are subcategories or sub-accounts or subclasses, this happens, right, where it shows like a running subtotal, and then you have to do what I showed earlier, which is go into Excel and delete the additional columns. That's just the mechanic of how QuickBooks constructs reports that have subs in it. There's no way to remove some of these. Matter of fact, let me check something. My mouse is gone. Give me 1 second.
While we're waiting for Hector to find his mouse, we're going to go ahead and launch the fourth poll question. This is the fourth and final poll. Everyone, please get your answers in as quickly as you can. Poll question number 4 is now live. Everyone, please get your answers in as quickly as you're able. We are going to close the fourth poll down in 3, 2, and 1.
Okay. I think my mouse has low battery. Of course, in the middle of a webinar, that's a perfect time. So I'm going to flip the batteries. I'm going to change the batteries real quick, and then I'm going to answer some of the other polling questions. So somebody says, is there a way to quickly reclassify all the classes or locations or add classes or locations in batch if I miss them or if they are missing? So I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to go ahead and change the batteries of my mouse. Perfect. So I'm going to go into the gear menu in this case. Okay. And then I'm going to click on reclassify transactions. Now that's available for me because my version of QuickBooks is QuickBooks Online Advanced. If you don't have QuickBooks Online Advanced, the only way to get to reclassify transactions is to be logged in as an accountant, which you would have to click on the Accountant Tools button and then click on Reclassify Transactions. And if you don't have QuickBooks Online accountant, or if you're not an accountant, in the slides, I'm going to go ahead and just fast forward to that slide. I have a section where I talk about reclassifying, and there's a link that you can copy and paste into your URL, and you can access that reclassify screen. So although by default, those are only available for advanced users and accountants, QuickBooks still allows you to access it if you type that URL straight in the URL section, which is a pretty interesting thing. So let's go back into reclassify here and talk about that. So let's say, for example, I'm going to go into my sales here, or let's look at something that has more. Okay, so I'm looking at all my sales here, and I can see anything that's classified to a class or to a location, or that it's missing one. So in this case, I think I did a pretty good job at adding a class and location to almost all of them. Notice that there's a couple here missing a class or a location. So if you actually select them, so let's say these two, I know what class and location they are. I just select them. I click on reclassify. So just click on the reclassify button, and then I can tell them these are my fresh product class, and these are my Miami office location. And then I click on apply, and I'll quickly add those classes and locations in there. All right, so let's move on to tags. So tags, easiest way to kind of describe tags, when you go create a new transaction, let's assume it's an invoice or a bill or a check or an expense, whatever it is. So I'm going to go ahead and create an invoice. Notice that there's a tags section down here in the bottom. When I click in there, I'm going to get a couple of options. I'm going to have a couple of drop-down menus. Let me click on refresh here for a second, because I just turned on the tags while we had the polling question. Not sure why they're not showing up. Let me go into manage tags and show you that. Nope. Let me log out and log back in, because this is the world of QuickBooks Online, right? Sometimes it'll sort of
Hector,
glitch out.
do you want me to go ahead and launch your fourth poll while you do that, or?
I think we should do it right after Divi presentation.
Okay, no problem.
Have a little bit of a break in that. Because look, this is QuickBooks Online, right? So sometimes this happens, right? You're in the middle of a presentation and it just decides that it wants to poo-poo all over it. So so I'm gonna log back into my file and see if it doesn't give me errors at this point. Okay, because I do want to cover tags. Tags is really important. The good news is I recorded a 20-minute video explaining tags really slowly, in detail. So you could always go back and watch that. That's in the slides itself. So I'm going to click on the gear menu and then click on tags. It should be under the list grouping. And then the way tags work is when you go in tags, you get sort of a quick preview. It's like, let's call it a dashboard, the tags dashboard. You get to see a money in dashboard on the left-hand side, where you can basically pick the date range, and then you can pick which of the tag groups you would like to use. So I got sales type, I have sales rep, I have ship from, and then I have ready to pay. Now I created those tags groups. They were my own thing, my own creation, my own creativity. I decided what I wanted to do. And then here, the same thing under money out, I can look at this year, and then I can group them by ready to pay. Like, for example, I have a tag where I tag a bill whether it's ready to pay or not. That's basically what that's for. When you scroll down, you're going to see all your tag groups. So sales type in this case is a tag group. If I click on the little triangle, it expands and it shows me the actual tags. So I got retail customer, wholesale customer. If I want to create a new tag for the sales type tag group, I click on the new button on the right hand side, and then I click on new tag. So let's say I'm going to have a government, right? So I'm going to sell to the government as well. So I want to group my my sales based on who I'm selling to, whether it's retail, wholesale, or government, and I put that under the sales type grouping. I'm going to click on save. Let's look at sales rep. Okay, so I got 4 sales reps here. I got Mary, John, Carlos, and Juan. Let's say I have a new salesperson coming in. I click on new, go to tag, and then let's say this is Robert S, and he's going to be under sales rep, and then click on save. So there's my new sales rep. Now, if one of these sales reps goes away and I don't want to use it anymore, like Juan, I can just click on the drop-down menu and I can delete that tag, and then that tag will go away forever. And I'll also remove the tag from the transactions. Unfortunately, I can't make them inactive, so you have to be careful. If you remove a tag, you remove all the tags from the transactions as well. Okay, so and the way you basically use this is I'm going to create a new invoice, and then I'm going to pick, let's say, a customer here, and I'll pick a product. Let's say this is $10,000 or $1,000. I click on tags, and then I can choose any of the tags that I want. And let's say this sale was from Robert. Okay, and then I click on save and close. And there you go. That's it. That's how tags work. You tag them. So now how do tag reporting works? There's a couple of ways to look at reports. One is you can actually run the report straight from here. So if I want to see sales by sales type, in this case, I click on run report, and then I'm going to get all the transactions by that. Let me click on all dates, so it shows all the transactions. And notice that these are all my retail customers, all my wholesale. So when I break them down, look, these are all my retail customer by sales type. And then I see all my wholesale customers as my sale type. I get to see all the transactions. I'm going to go back here for a second, and then I'm going to look at my sales by sales rep, click on run report, and there's all my sales. So I got Carlos, John, Mary, and Robert. I can expand any of these and see any of the sales for that. Now, unfortunately, currently the transaction list by tag doesn't subtotal. When you condense, this is, in my opinion, just a programming glitch. I hope into it gets to that fairly quick, but you can see totals in a different report. Let me go to reports, and then I'm going to search tag, and then I'm going to go to profit and loss by tag. And then once I click on which is my tag group that I want to use, let's say it's going to be sales rep. I pick sales rep in there as my option. And then I click on run report. And then there's my profit and loss by sales rep. If I only want to see sales because I don't want to see costs, I can just click on customize, click on filter, and then go to distribution account and simply just select all income accounts and click on run report. And then what makes it really interesting in this case is I can filter it. I can say, what are my sales by sales rep only for my Miami location? So I go to customize report and then go down to my territory or my location and then pick Miami office and click on run report. And then I get a filter report for that location across my sales rep. So it really, when you actually use all three, you can really do some interesting things when it comes to reports. The last thing I'll show, and it's on the slides as well, is reclassifying tags in batch. So let's say, for example, I got a bunch of transactions missing reclassifications. Let me go back to that again. Let me click on tags. I can just click here where it says 500 transactions, 6 transactions, 500 transactions. In that transactions column, I click on any of them, and it takes me into my transactions screen. And then if I'm missing tags, for example, let's say I'm going to uncheck these so I get to see all my transactions that have tags and don't have tags. And if I have any transactions that are missing tags, like these 3 here, I can basically select them, and then I can quickly tag them in batch. I can click on add tag, and then I can say, okay, these are all Carlos's sales, and these are all government sales, and these are all shipped from New York. And then click on apply, and that will add all the tags all in one shot. Okay, so that's it for me. One thing I wanted to mention, if you go to the slides, everything's explained, broken down in the slides. We do have an additional resources section. These are all the videos I have recorded in YouTube that I find to be probably the top most important videos that contain resources about custom reports, navigating shortcuts, all QuickBooks Online related content. So you want to check out that that slide. And also, if you want to see all the other webinars recorded by Divi or by myself in CPA Academy, you can see them there. I'm going to go ahead and let go of my screen and give it to Chad, who's going to do a quick presentation on Divi and run the polling question.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much, Hector. Let me change up the presenter. I'll share my screen here. I'll make this very, very quickly. For those of you who've been on a Divi sponsored webinar before, you'll be familiar with the name and what we do. If not, I'm going to make this quick because I think that Hector did an excellent job in describing what Divi did earlier. In a nutshell, Divvy is a corporate credit card that is paired with some really amazing financial software that allows you to basically streamline spend and expense management and rethink the financial tech stack that you as a CPA are offering to your clients, and really helping them build out better processes that allow them to control their spend, and you to minimize as much manual processes like chasing receipts and categorizing transactions as possible. I'm going to skip to this slide right here in the interest of time, and just let you know that we have an excellent partner program. So if you are an accounting firm and you have the ability to advise on the type of financial technology that may make your client's life better and your life better as a firm, we have an excellent partner program that not only works with you to really make you an expert in the Divvy platform to help you become more marketable and also get more business from your existing clients, but we also offer revenue sharing on Divvy. Now, everything that you heard Hector say and everything that I'm saying right now, please understand that Divvy is a free product. We make our money off of the interchange fee on the credit card every time it's used, which means that you and your clients get Divvy for free, and you as a partner will get rev share on any of the people that you send over to Divvy as a Divvy partner. So take a look at getdivvy.com/partners/overview. Email me directly, chad.wade@DivvyPay, if you're curious to learn more, have any questions. And with that, I will keep this short and sweet and turn it back over to Hector.
So somebody's asking me a comment that I made where I said Divvy is like a credit card. Can you expand on how that works?
Yeah, so Divvy actually does issue credit. We aim to replace the corporate credit cards that either you or your clients use. Typically, it's an Amex. With the idea that we can offer a very good points program as well as a lot of software around the credit card to make it a much better experience and basically enable your clients to get their entire company using credit cards, corporate credit cards, but with a whole host of spending controls. So Hector, you mentioned enforceable budgets a moment ago when you were talking about Divvy. That's one of the biggest things that we bring to the table when you pair software with the actual spending mechanism, which is a credit card in this case. So yes, that is a great question. And the one-word answer is yes, we are a credit card company with great software around it.
Well, I think if we could have Hector close the poll now, I think this is a great time to wrap up. If you agree, gentlemen.
I do have one more question, Chad. A lot of people are saying we're moving some clients from Expensify to another solution. Would you compare yourself without speaking bad about the competition? Would you compare your system to Expensify?
Yes, we are a more robust and extremely competent solution to Expensify. We, in the wake of some of the decisions that Expensify has made, we've been having a lot of these conversations, and would invite you to have a conversation with us too, and how we're helping those clients who are looking to make a switch.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We didn't answer all the questions, but I think we answered the more important ones. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Are you ready for me to do a 20-second wrap up, and we'll let people get on their way?
You do it. Okay. Goodbye.
Thank you, Hector and Chad. Wonderful presentation today. It's been great. For those of you that are here for CPE credit, that should be available in your CPA Academy account within about 24 hours. You can also find the handouts and an archived recording of the webinar there. And you'll also have an opportunity for a full webinar evaluation. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and we hope you join us again on a future webinar. Goodbye. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at CPA Academy. This is Maureen Dudley, and you're in for a treat today. I will be your moderator along with Hector Garcia, giving us some great QuickBooks Online tips. And we're so thankful for Divvy for sponsoring this wonderful webinar for us. But before we do get started with QuickBooks Online reporting tips, class, locations, and tags, I do want to go through a few quick technical checks. I want to do a little housekeeping and make sure that you can see Hector's first slide, that you can hear me, so your sound and visuals are okay. And while you're at it, letting me know that you can see and hear, why don't you go ahead and let us know where you're calling in from today. And you can do that over in the Q&A section of the control panel. I see lots of different people coming in now. Sometimes there's a slight delay with a webcast, so don't worry about that. But I love to get all of your input. Do keep in mind that there's only one of me here, so I will take care of your technical issues just as quickly as possible. Wonderful. I see people coming in from California and Utah. Everything's good from North Carolina, and audio and visual good in Boulder, Colorado, and New Jersey. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Of course, remember, if you're having troubles, I am here for you. Now, concerning CPE, if you're here for credit, this session qualifies for 1 credit of CPE. And in order to earn that, please remain logged in for at least 50. That's 50 minutes, and answer all our polling questions. We do have multiple questions today, and you actually only need to answer 3 of the 4 to get credit, but please go ahead and answer all of them. If you are having any problems with answering the polls, we found that getting out of full screen mode helps with answering the polls. The GoToWebinar poll box will pop up when it's time for a poll. The slides will go away, and all you have to do is select your answer and be sure to hit submit. We then here at CPA Academy will process your credit by the end of today, and we'll make that available within about 24 hours in your CPA Academy account, along with an archived recording of the session and the handouts. Now, you can also find the handouts. I noticed that Hector was kind enough to put them in the chat. I have also dropped them into the handout section of the GoToWebinar control panel. So I think that is plenty of housekeeping. Let's give a warm welcome to Hector Garcia. Welcome, Hector.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Everybody, thank you very much for showing up, the people that are watching this live, and the people that will consequently watch the recording. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. QuickBooks Online, specifically reporting tips with classes, locations, and tags. There